This week on Tuesday Noon, with so much focus on the Middle East in the media today, it's easy to minimize the political, geographic, social, and economic turmoil that's happening right across our border to the south. How do we step up as good neighbors in a politically charged, economically driven hornet's nest in Central and South America? That's this week on Tuesday Noon for September 26, 2006.
But normally Mary's wrong and I'm right, so it makes for a good show.
I am recording that. Welcome back to another...
Normally Jamie's right and I'm left.
It is another Tuesday Noon, another Tuesday, another noon, and man, I'm glad I got that on tape.
We're rocking and rolling.
Rocking and roll. That's fantastic. I am Pete Wright, and I'm sitting here in the cave with...
Mr. Jamie Whitley.
Mr. Jamie Whitley and...
Mary Bradbury
Jones. Thanks for coming back.
Thank you.
Another week. It's always good to see you.
Always
guys.
good to see you.
I really, maybe we've said this before, I just look forward to these. I plan my week. I'm thinking, hey, Tuesday's coming up, and it's good.
I know, it's
really
fantastic.
Good. Yeah, it's fun.
It's getting into the habit now. I think, this is our 13th show.
Wow.
Uh-oh.
I know. Can you believe that?
Well, are we going to be in trouble or something?
That's right. The legs of the chairs are starting to break.
I have my lucky rabbit foot. I know that's not politically correct for Mary. Look, I have a rabbit foot that's lucky. Right?
Not for the rabbit,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. Fluffy.
Yeah.
My pet.
What do we have to talk about today?
Well, we actually have one of our faculty members here with us. His name is Fernando Casafranca, and he is from Peru, teaches with the University of Phoenix, been teaching with us for 3 years now. Also a University of Phoenix graduate. He got his MBA from University of Phoenix.
From the Mary Bradbury Jones School of Teaching, right?
Congratulations.
Right. Cool. One of your students. Auspicious day.
She wasn't
that?
looking careful that day. But
Yeah. Oh goodness. Okay. And he does teach for us in the Graduate School of Business primarily with teaching classes around strategic planning and some in the technology area. He has been in the high-tech industry for about 20 years, specializing in telecommunications, semiconductor industry, and is currently an engineering manager with Radisys. Did I pronounce that correctly?
That's correct.
Great. Yeah. All right. So he's here today for us to kind of focus on Latin America primarily, talking maybe about immigration, Venezuela, perhaps how technology is playing a role in that country. We'll see if we get there. Sure. But we've got a lot of topics to cover in a short period of time.
Well, we sure do. I mean, we were talking before you got here and just started going off on some of these topics, and I mean, it was where did we start? I mean, you brought an article, Jamie, right? That was interesting.
We started talking about
off.
Venezuela, and I don't know if that's a good place to talk.
First of all, thanks for inviting me. I'm glad to be here.
Well, thank
you, Fernando.
Yeah, way to go, Mary.
Yeah, way to go.
Yeah. Okay, our guest is here, but we don't let him say anything.
Wait, you're the one that jumped in on top of him.
You guys interrupt.
Don't blame me.
Yes.
Do not blame me. Hey, Fernando, why don't you tell us, tell us about Peru? Let's start there.
Okay, well, I was born and raised in Peru. I lived there half of my life. I live less than half now, but 21 years. Graduated from school there, and I got my BSW also from Peru before I convalidated here in the States. Then I came here when I was 22, and I've been here since. So I can tell you that, technically speaking, a little bit more than half of my life I've been in the States, right? Mainly in Oregon. So I'm an Oregonian, but I was born and raised in Peru, and my family is still there. So I'm in close contact with my family, my roots. And so I'm one of those individuals who has kind of bipolar nationality, right?
Do you return often?
I go there quite often, at least once a year. See my mom.
Okay.
Are you a U.S. citizen? Or?
Yeah, I am a U.S. citizen, legal immigrant. I have a green card.
We must make sure we make that clear. He
It's
is
an American
legal.
Express.
You didn't make the run across the border?
No. I never ran across the border. I flew over the border many times.
Very good.
Yeah.
What brought you up here?
Essentially, was education. When I finished my BSW there, I came try to do my master's in electrical engineering, and I convalidated I did my postgraduate studies here in Oregon State and PSU. And initially,
was Oregon State that
OSU,
attracted you?
PSU first. Oh. Well, that's where I landed, right? Initially, my intention was just to get my degree and go back home. But as I was getting my degrees, I got married, I got a kid, so I have to have a job. I started as a technician, then they hired me as an engineer, and the rest is history. I ended up staying here.
always a woman, isn't it?
It was.
It's always the woman's fault, isn't it?
Okay. So I've been managing engineers for over 20 years. Started doing telecommunications. I was part of the birth of the internet. I was building the.
Were you next to Al Gore? You and Al Gore were
yeah,
sitting right there.
actually,
doing
we were building the ramps to the information superhighway. Right, that's kind of the job we were doing. And Al Gore wasn't
with
there.
which organization? What organization?
It's ADC Telecommunications. Okay. We built all of the DSUs, CSUs that go in front of the routers that are connected to the wide area network. Right.
And you didn't see Al Gore?
No, he wasn't there. Although I know from our background in software that he invented the algorithm, right?
The algorithm.
You get it?
See? Yeah. Now that's one I've never heard.
Now you know something.
Only an engineer.
Yeah.
Only an engineer,
there
right?
You go.
Very good.
Yeah.
Good. So. One of the things we've been bantering around earlier today is the whole political climate in Latin America and the United States and Cuba and how they relate. Particularly, this Venezuela is really in the news today. The President Chavez was at the UN. Called Bush, I don't remember exactly, I'll have to look that up here, I've got it. Oh, called him the devil. This is off of the Associated Press just a couple of hours ago. The leftist leaders joined Iran in opposing U.S. influence, accusing Washington of domination and exploitation and pillage of peoples of the world. And we appeal to the people of the United States and the world to halt their threat, which is like a sword hanging over our head. Who is this guy?
And what is the threat?
I'll give you my perspective. Like I said, I spend most of my time here, but Latin America, every country is uniquely different. And even within every country, there are several microcosms based on the cultural origin of their people. There's a mixture, like I was telling you earlier, when the Spaniards conquered Latin America. The Spaniards who went to Latin America weren't the best and the brightest, right? They were mostly dead row inmates. So it's people who were destined to the gallows. It was either the gallows and the Inquisition, or they jump in a boat and go conquer Latin America. So that's what they did.
So they were mercenaries.
Worse than mercenaries. In fact, Peru was...
But hired thugs.
Very hired thugs. In fact, Peru was founded by a guy named Pizarro, which in the foundation of the city of Lima, which is the city that he founded. And he founded in a place that was closest to the ocean, the easiest port to escape, because they were afraid of the Indians, right? That was the thinking of it. If you go and see the foundation of the city, the document where it was written, there's an X, because he didn't even know how to write it. They were shepherds, ignorant. So if you put that in context, Latin America has evolved. Different countries have different mixtures of different ethnic races, cultural races, and what happened, there is this big economical divide, because these countries, Latin America is being and still continues to be a source for natural resources, right? Essentially, it's a place where you go and exploit and take oil, fish, minerals, right? And they don't really develop an infrastructure, because you're always just exploiting that as a source for natural resources. Well, when that happens, few people get very rich, and the rest of them don't have access to it. And these societies are built up on that foundation.
No middle class.
To protect the upper class, right?
The sort of 5% of the ruling party. And
right. Now, with the times, people have become more sophisticated, and they no longer just stay in power politically, but they have economical power. So they let sometimes people like Chavez in Venezuela, who are demagogues, who cater to 95% of the population who are destitute, some of them ignorant, and with very short-term thinking, where they offer them, free food. If you vote for me, I'll give you a sandwich. But some people do that.
Wow.
And what it does, this kind of populist leaders, so-called leaders in Latin America, cater to the need of the poor, and with false pretenses, right? They offer them solution to their problems without any accountability, right? The concept of impunity is very prevalent in the sense, if you're poor in one of these countries, you are not accountable. If you hit somebody with a car because you're poor, you don't have to have insurance, you don't have to pay for anything. You're entitled to, the state owes you free medicine or free education, or by the way, and also free housing. Just because you're poor and no, you don't want to have to pay taxes. That's for the people, for the rich people who are stealing from me. So that mentality.
Which, like the Democratic Party in the United States.
I agree, but
And Mary rolls her eyes.
Going there.
there you go. I won't show you my GOP card.
Oh, okay, yeah. In my NRA card. And,
I have one.
Yeah, dude, good for you. Yeah.
But anyway.
Greedy oil party?
Greedy oil party. No way.
You're
don't
proud
even
card-carrying
go there.
members of that group?
Don't even go there.
It's the God's party, but okay.
The God's Party.
That's true, too.
Are you kidding? They created the Venezuelan crisis, darn it, and they're proud of it.
You know, probably was the CIA.
So what's
that helped
happening
with some of the coups.
in Venezuela, right?
Yeah.
This guy is elected by the populists, the big masses. But the big masses have no influence or say-so in the running of the country. So it's the smaller sector that runs the country. They actually don't like this guy. Most countries in Latin America, most educated people in Latin America think he's crazy. And he is. I mean, he's...
Why is he crazy at it?
Because he...
Rumsfeld called him Hitler.
Well,
Hitler, yeah.
You got to take it from who's coming from.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Rumsfeld.
Rumsfeld, yes.
That seems a little...
It's not the best of the varieties that we
Yeah.
have, right? But he leveraged on this. He's a populist. He just wants attention. He compares himself with Castro, right, in Cuba. There's totally two different realities, right? And the only reason he's still in Venezuela is because Venezuela still has money coming from oil, right? And he's trying to use that to leverage to kind of stick the thumb against the United States.
Raising the price of oil for the United States, but dramatically decreasing the price for the other Latin American countries.
Well,
But yet he
even.
gave a
Not
fair
even.
amount of heating oil to the
Right.
northeast at a much cheaper price.
Well,
than our country was.
he does these things, but these are just populist jests, right? They have absolutely no
Substance.
substance to it or no economic value. If you think about it, what he's doing is he lowered the price of gas in Venezuela to 17 cents or 70 cents a gallon, just for the Venezuela, just to show that he can do it, just to prove that he can do it. Yet at the same time, he's nationalizing all the golf courses in Caracas, which is the main city. Golf courses, we've been there for 100 years, right? And they're beautiful landscape, but in the middle of the city. But he wants to build housing for the poor, rather than do it on the outskirts where you need to really work hard to build these houses. He's doing it. He wants to do it on a nice manicure lawn.
Wow.
So he's taking private golf courses that people are paying money to create, and you're creating business and enterprise.
Right.
Taking it, the government now owns it, and then building housing for poor people.
Right. And it has two effects. One is sends the signal to the people to the private sector saying, I have power, I can do that. Two, tells the lower classes, some of the ignorant and destitute, that this is a way to get even with.
Right.
So in your face, right?
Get back at the man.
Right, there you go. So that's the role he's playing. And he's going to keep playing that role as long as he can get away with it. What he doesn't know or he's not aware of, that there's a change in the world as far as United States is an economic power. And by nature, the United States have neglected Latin America. Okay, they have neglected. It's like our backyard, right? We seldom get rid of the weeds, so there's a lot of weeds growing on there now. We focus on the front lawn. Now, there's two other powers, and Latin America is trying now to do business with the European Union and as an alternate partner. And to complicate matters, China, who's becoming a fast-growing power, is now catering Latin America to buy raw materials from Latin America, because China, for their development, desperately needs raw materials, and because they have zero infrastructure or very little infrastructure, right?
Right.
So they're going to Latin America. Chavez just signed a contract to supply oil to the Chinese.
Yeah, I saw that he signed like
substantial.
5 contracts. It's Cuba and it's China.
And he's threatening with the
the
idea of, I can send my ships rather than send them to the east coast of the United States. I'll send them to China, right? So he's acting that way, saying, hey, I found somebody better than you, right? What he doesn't know is that better than him has more ulterior motives that are not as good for the country as the United States. We are imperialistic, but we have a good intentions in hand. We want to develop those countries. We don't want to rob them blind, right? The Chinese, on the contrary, they want to have access to Latin America, and they want to clean up the whole Amazon jungle. They don't care about ecosystem or anything. They just want to take all the raw material they can, fast, quick, and really deplete that area. They could care less.
So in the end, it leaves you poorer than when you started.
Exactly. So that's the risk. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any manufacturing in Latin America of exports of things other than oil and natural resources?
There is an industrial infrastructure. It's not as strong or bigger than in other countries in the world, but yeah, they have it.
Price competitiveness? Can we export making shoes, for example? There are something at a price that would...
There is a lot of good quality products that they produce, and they're marketing now. They're one of the benefits of NAFTA or the free trade agreement. Now every country is negotiating their own. Is that they're expanding their market, they're having more access to our market here, and their industries are growing. And there's a lot of competent people, a lot of good industry, but yet it's in the infancy. And again, it's because there's no the distribution of wealth is not balanced, right? So you still have that 5% that rules,
and there's no way out of that. I mean, how do you break that 5% barrier when there is no middle class?
That is the challenge. However, I believe Latin America will come around. I mean, they go in cycles, right? In the last 20 years, they moved to the right, and now they're trying to move center to the left. And you see Bolivia has all these populist guys, and it makes you wonder where these people came from, right? But that's because we in the United States have a total misconception of what the democracy is. Right? We're trying to export the democracy the way we understand democracy. Right? Equal rights for everybody. Everybody has a right to a vote. Well, there are certain realities in where not everybody should be voting. That's what you get when you let everybody vote, right? You elect the wrong people. So
and then it goes back to education.
Right, absolutely.
Education is the great equalizer that allows people to think
Yes.
through those things and say, well, you can't buy my vote with government handouts.
Right, and things are changing. The internet, for example, is changing now the way the world is being seen. Right.
So I was just going to say that. What's the propagation of the internet in Latin America?
Okay, that is an interesting subject. The digital divide. The internet has a bandwidth, right? A finite bandwidth. 50% of the bandwidth is used by the United States. We are less than 5% of the population, but we're consuming over 50% of the bandwidth, right? The other 20% is Europe, and the other 20% I think is Japan. Latin America, Africa is less than 1% of the access to the internet.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is there private access to?
You have a lot of all the telecom companies from the States are all over Latin America.
Okay.
The beauty of the internet now with wireless is that you don't need an infrastructure, right? So cell phones and access to the internet, they're everywhere, right? But they're still not utilizing it as much as they could. Okay.
Well,
it's changing.
Well, if you're one of the 95%ers, how do you even afford it?
That is true.
I mean,
one phenomenon that you see in Latin America is a lot of internet coffees, right? I mean, you just go to any shop and there's 20, 30 computers there, and you just pay like 25 cents an hour, and you get access.
And there you're online.
Oh yeah, you're online. So
is it censored? Censored?
No, not in Latin America, not like in China or Singapore, but yeah, I think the internet will be one of the equalizers, right? But it's gonna take time.
Is it Cuba, where Cuba has? We were talking to Dr. Ernest and some of the issues there, where there's this KGB that they're watching what you're saying, and you can.
Cuba is totally different. No, Latin America is not like Cuba.
Okay.
Right?
Well, it takes to the issue of Cuban communism and Latin American democracy, I say in quotes.
Right.
Because you get voted in say, Venezuela, but it's kind of rigged.
Right. But kind of rigged is really the issue. I mean, aren't these 5% just as concerned about what the populists are going to, or what the rest of the country is going to say, or the rest of the community?
There are, but they're more concerned to protect their own power and wealth, right?
Yeah,
but then again, be careful when you talk about Latin America. Every country is unique and different, and they have their own. So they're different, like islands, right? They have their own issues.
So tell us about Peru. What's the political structure there?
Peru is an interesting country. They're so-called democratic in the last 30 years because they have a lot of terrorism in the 70s with the Shining Path. I don't know if you heard about that. Kind of like the Pol Pot in Cambodia that fails and backlash. And now it's a very democratic country. There's There's more. It's a more has a lot of liberal economic policies, and is doing really well financially because Peru is again raw materials. They have a lot of gold. The price of gold is going up. Copper, fish, oil. So the economy is doing great. I mean, for Latin America, it's one of the fastest growing, but yet you have these social imbalances and these social problems, right?
It's in Peru as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Every country in Latin America.
So you were growing up there during the Shining Path.
I left, after the Shining Path. I seen some of it. Mm-hmm.
What was that like?
It's pretty scary. If you look at what we see at terrorism here, we seen it over there. Cars blowing up all the time. I mean, cities with.
You mean terrorism's not a new thing?
Hate to break it.
Yeah.
I mean, we
Americans think it is.
Actually, my opinion is the problems they have in Iraq. They should hire the Peruvian special forces to go clean it up because that's what they did. In Peru, they copied the model from Cambodia, where you hear about the Pol Pot in Cambodia, right? That was killing fields. I don't know if you saw the movie. Anybody with intelligence, or if you have glasses, if you know how to read, you were shot immediately. Right? Their concept was to destroy anything resemblant to the modern society and build it from scratch. Peru tried to do the same thing. The Shining Path tried to do the same thing. And they tap into the most destitute, lowest level of society, the most violent, which was in the lower class, the indigenous population, the natives, and within them, the women, because these are very male chauvinist societies. So they tap into the women who turn out to be the meanest, ruthless killers because they had so much hate, right? So they were very effective. But the government copied the model from Cambodia when they stopped Pol Pot, in which it was their cells, terrorist cells, okay? And they instituted these tribunals where you get prosecuted by hooded judges. So you couldn't see him, you could not blackmail him or anything. But it was either, life in prison or kill or, fire squad, or you give me the name of 5 people who are in the organization. So, and if you came clean, if you repent yourself, you were forgiven. And that paid off. They were able to get to the top.
Could we do that here? That's
I
interesting.
think McCarthy tried that.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way we could.
Well, we don't have that kind of problem.
But it is an interesting concept.
That's a concept that they
go jail, die, or hey, rat out 5 of your buddies.
Right. It's funny how people talk with those choices, right? But you work over there. So now Peru is more a democratic place. I mean, they still have some terrorism cells. It's still active, but not as much. Right? And then they have the problem of the drugs between Colombia and Peru, the cocaine thing.
Right.
When you have Bolivia and a lot of political unrest as well.
Right. Well, Bolivia is a totally different environment where the problem there is the indigenous population is almost 90% of the society. And they don't believe, they were misunderstood. Their culture has not been assimilated into what we call the Occidental type of they still want to be ruled the way they were ruled 500 years ago, and they don't want to deal with anybody, right? And they resent the fact that they don't have exit to the ocean, and they're trying to negotiate the ocean. And now they're trying to leverage on they have gas, a lot of natural gas, right? And their populist president was elected, said, I'm going to nationalize the gas company, shut off the gas pipe to Brazil, which lasted 24 hours, right? The Brazilians said, what are you doing? All right? So they changed it, but it's a different country.
Yeah, they have something like 20 different political parties.
Oh.
I mean, or more than that. It's crazy.
Right. Again, the misconception of the democracy will work with political parties who have an affiliation. Over there is Latin people, the end result, what we call them, their egos are bigger than themselves, right? You look at the United States. United States is the 3rd largest Hispanic-speaking country in the world, right? Yet, you didn't know that? Mexico, Spain, and United States. 35 million. More than any country in Latin America, Spanish-speaking people. Yeah. Yet, those 35 million don't have the presence or the power in our political system that you would think a solid, cohesive group, social group will have it, right?
Because it's not a solid, cohesive social group.
No, because out of those 35 million, there's 36 millions of egos, right? One bigger than the other. That's the truth.
Well, it's very fragmented.
Very, very fragmented.
I was going to pick up on this issue of the Spanish-speaking people in the United States, and that drives this immigration question. And people coming across the border.
Right.
And tell me how you feel about that, and legal immigration and illegal
absolutely.
immigration.
It's an interesting concept. I have my opinion. I'll share it with you. It's not political. Immigration is a phenomenon created by economic necessity. All right? It's not a unique problem to the United States. Europe is suffering the same thing with the Africans
massively,
coming, right? Turkish people are moving into Europe. In the United States, we have this phenomena of people coming from Latin America, essentially from Mexico, right? The majority of people are migrant workers, are the lowest levels of their society, who are looking for a job. Because where they are, they don't have a job. And they don't have a job because their government didn't provide the infrastructure for them to work, okay? So the analogy I like to present when I talk about this is like you living in a neighborhood and having a neighbor who's an alcoholic, all right, who happens to have 5 kids. Well, you have 2 kids, and one of your kids befriend one of these 3 years old, brings him home one day. You feel sorry because the 3-year-old hasn't had food for 3-4 days because dad is out, bending the elbow. So you bring him one day, you bring him the next day.
Eventually, he just stays.
Pretty soon the kid comes and starts bringing his family, his brother, his siblings, and you are feeding them. You're doing a good thing for the kids, but what you're doing is you're enabling the alcoholic to continue to be alcoholic and not take ownership of the responsibility. So what happens? There is so much food you have in your kitchen, so many. There comes a moment when you cannot have all these 5 kids plus there are 30 relatives coming here. So that's the problem we're facing in the United States. Now, the immigration situation we right now have with illegal immigrants, in my opinion, it's a reflection of the lack of creativity and competence of our political leaders, okay? Because the problem is real simple. It's an economic necessity. These immigrants, these Mexican laborers, I'm using Mexicans, but anybody who comes here with no skills set, okay, other than the need to work and a tremendous desire to work, they don't want to stay here. The fact is, when you see them, they live in their own communities, they try to do their own thing, they don't even speak English, they don't even learn English, right? And we even have this argument whether English should be the only language we speak here. Absolutely should be. Go to France. Unless you speak French, you don't live in France. In the United States, in my personal opinion, unless you speak English, you have no business here. That's my personal opinion. Okay. Now, the problem is...
I agree. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be allowed here, certainly, but I think it should
better
be
learn,
standard.
Right? So here's the problem. We assume that these people come here and want to stay. That's the biggest misconception.
Because the whole reason, they don't want to learn English. They don't care to learn English because they want to make some money and go and send it home and go home.
Would you want to live away from home like that?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Here's the deal. Here's my opinion. The problem they come here and stay here is because we don't let them out once they're here. And guess what? That creates, they miss their family, they miss their wives, their children. They smuggling in because they're missing. So we're attracting more people. What we needed to do, in my opinion, is open the borders. I don't believe in illegal immigration. Everybody who's illegal and breaks the law needs to pay the consequences, need to be rounded up and sent back where they came from if you break the law. But we should have a system that allows anybody who comes to work here and work here. Here's what I would do. With the new technology elements we have nowadays, credit cards where you have, biometrics on it, let's create a system where, let's say, we sell 3 types of visas, all right, just for discussion. You can elaborate on this. One of them would be you want to work in the United States and you want to make between $5 and $10 an hour, meaning lower skills. Okay, I'll sell you this ID for a year, this permit, this working permit for 1 year for $3,000. I'll sell it to you. It's issued by the government. You take your pictures, biometric, you sell the guy. The guy comes or the lady comes here, works for a year, making $5 to $10 an hour. You hire him, looking at this ID card. When they're done, they can sell that card back to the pool, get back their $3,000. They already made their money that they wanted. They go back to their home. They're happy because that's what they want. The next level is you want to make between $10 and $20. Okay, $5,000 a year. You want to make beyond that? Okay, $10,000 a year. You create a system that is legal, right? You make money because it's all about making money, right? It's a necessity.
Right. And providing value to an opportunity.
Exactly. We need cheap labor or affordable labor, let's call it. All right, we do need it in our farms, all right. But yet, that need could be filled by us profiting from it. And then we're providing a legal channel to these people to come and provide the labor they're willing to provide, and they generate the income that they're willing to, they need to invest in their own place, and let them go back.
Is that along the same lines as the work visa permit idea?
A little more sophisticated.
But
more
my understanding of the, when they throw around the number of illegal aliens in this country, that all those people didn't sneak over the border. They actually came in, got visas, and never went back after they expired.
Because, again...
So they came in legally.
Correct. But, again, it goes back to the lack of ability to go back, get out of the United States, and be able to come back next time they can. Because right now, by law, if you come here legally, right, and your visa expires, you get into the blacklist. As soon as you leave, you can no longer come back. So
they can't ever leave if they want to continue to be this opportunity.
My point. You have to make a system that allows coming in back and forth, right? But you have to legalize it and profit from it. Let the government profit from it. Right now, the only ones who are profiting from it are the smugglers, right? Because they're profiting from these people. Now, and unless we do something about immigration, we talk about now 13 million, 14 million people. In 1995, we passed this amnesty law, right? And at the time, we had 3 million illegals. Well, the amnesty law was supposed to take care of these 3 million. Now we have 14 million people, okay, allegedly, of illegal immigrants. If we pass another amnesty law, 10 years from now, you're going to have an 80 million people problem. See? That is the thing we need to keep in mind. So if you want my opinion, we can no longer allow illegal immigration in this country. We cannot. We must do something drastic, right? And what I'm proposing is it's looking at the root cause.
Is that just you, Fernando, or is there support for a system like this?
That's my idea.
Out there?
Well, this concept.
Because I don't know. I mean, I'm sitting here saying, I've been trying to get my arms around this issue and trying to come up with a position that I have, and I'm going both ways. I mean, I really because I have such a very sort of American perspective, sort of a white male perspective.
Don't stereotype.
Liberal.
Don't stereotype. No,
I'm stereotyping myself.
There are some good liberals.
Yeah, there's.
Okay, but
Mary.
Yeah, of course, Professor Mary. But here's the deal.
I need to run through the list of all the initiative liberals have done over the last 20 years that you're all benefiting
Let me
from?
get you a whiteboard and a.
No, but here's the deal. You got
a small whiteboard.
This is an economic problem. It's not a social problem. We made it a social problem, but it's an economic problem and we made it a social problem because we don't understand the root cause. The root cause is these people need a job. We can provide it. They don't want to stay. Provide them a way to come in, work, and leave.
But see, I would challenge to some extent that it is a social problem because one of the ways to stop the immigration is to stop the need to come here. So when our corporations go into Mexico, let's say, and do a plant there so they can rape the people, basically it only pay them $3 an hour. That is unethical in my point. And that's where it turns into the social issue, right?
Okay, let me
Am I off base there?
No, it's okay.
I'm waiting.
It's economic and
I'm
social.
still on this side of the room. So.
I'm with you. The place I work for, I happen to manage factories, engineers in factories in Monterrey, Mexico, and also in China. So I can talk to you about labor camps, okay? Mexico is not as bad as China, all right? But it goes back to the fundamental economic supply and demand, all right? You will pay whatever the market is willing to bear, all right? I've been in Mexico, and I tell you, on the maquiladora plants, the way they work is every morning there's 200 chairs, 200 slots for people to work, right? $1 an hour or whatever you want to. And every day, people lined up from 3 in the morning until 5 when the factory opened to get the first 200 jobs, right? Like in the Depression. It happens in Mexico. It happens even worse in China. Things I've seen in China, it's a whole different world, okay? So it's economics. The misunderstanding of the economical issue is what creates the social problem. Again, I'll go back to this. These people don't want to live here. They just want the work. They want the money for it. Let them come in, let them collect the money, and let them go back. In the meantime, we can profit from it. We take taxes. We sell, we sell this ID document. You make it legal. You take all the illegality away from it, right? And then
put businesses in a position of sponsoring these visas
and at the same time, going back to my original approach, you send the kids back to the alcoholic. That alcoholic, which is the governments in Latin America, right, have to face the reality that they're their kids, they're responsible for them. It's a situation they created. All we're doing is we're enabling them to continue status quo, right? Why is the Mexican president come and giving a speech? Well, yeah, let's legalize immigration. Better for them, right?
Exactly, because then they don't have to take care of their people.
Well, and then money goes back.
And money goes back. That's really the issue.
Our money goes back to support things that they can't.
Which is, in a sense, okay, as long as it goes through the right channels, right? The problem is for the four of us, right now, we are supporting schools, hospitals, for these people who have absolutely no insurance, no benefits, or no pay in school. It's coming out of our tax dollars, right? And, okay, it's good to do charity, but there's a limit, right? And that's my point, is that I think unless we do something, and we do something drastic, it's the magnitude of the problem is going to be 10 times bigger 10 years from now.
I do agree that it's an economic issue. It goes back to Adam Smith and the wealth of nations, that this rising tide. And so that's when we talk about NAFTA. While there's this short-term pain that maybe you're not producing steel or whatever right here, the theory is, of course, that maybe you're producing that steel in Mexico, and so therefore their standard of living rises, and then over time it's the great equalizer, and we all do well. It works if the economic train is moving along and you don't have people at the top who are ignoring things or raping and pillaging and taking, because then it upsets the system.
It works if those people truly want to help those other people rise up.
Well,
if they're not taking advantage of it.
That's the assumption you're making. The only way that works is if the people at the top are not greedy and power hungry.
Yes.
And when they get greedy and power hungry, all they care about is widening the divide between them and the next level, because wealth is relative.
That's right.
So the only way, the idea behind trickle-down economics, NAFTA, the only way those work is if those people at the top have altruistic intentions towards truly having that happen.
And since they
don't want that to happen.
Since they don't, we need to tax the bejeebers out of them and give it to Al Gore, because Al Gore will spend it better than they
He's
will.
burning the earth.
Absolutely.
Right, he's melting the poles right now, but here's the deal.
Poor Al Gore. What the hell did he ever do to you except serve his country loyally? It's ridiculous.
He tried to run for president. That's what he did. But the thing is, I agree with you. The people who rule in those countries...
Getting irritated.
You are?
Can you tell?
I can feel your pain. Okay.
I think I'm going to start to cry. Can I get one going here?
Sure.
Yeah.
Those rulers in those countries absolutely don't want to change the status quo.
Yes, that is.
So what we need to do is be the catalyst for change. Send these people back. These 14 million people who have issues, put them back in their country. Let them drive change. Let them start a revolution on their place. In their it's their country. It's their inherent right to have a better life in their country. They have the resources, right?
Right.
They have the resources. I'll guarantee you, and I'm speaking for myself, right? I mean, I hate to generalize, but if you interview 20 of these poor people who are in an awful situation here, they'd rather be in their country doing the same thing or better, right? And changing their country, their values. They're the most caring. They have a lot of family values, a lot of nationalistic values. I mean, they're good people, right? They're just economics that force them to migrate to a place that they don't want to embrace it. Because you don't see all of these people integrating and wanting to be here. If you see their clusters where they speak their own language, and not only Hispanics, I'm not picking on. You have Russians in Woodburn or Germans. That is the key.
So what do you think of Pat Buchanan's opinion that this is all happening because Mexico wants to come back and take back the states that they feel we took from them? So this is all underground plan to come back and steal Texas and Arizona and California back from the United States. But he's on the TV. He's spouting his racist views.
I gotta say something. My personal opinion. I think he's right in a lot of things. Now his political demeanor, I agree with you. There are things that's why he's not president. Right?
Yeah.
But I don't believe there's an ulterior motive other than the people in power in Mexico wants to stay in power.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
It's economics.
It's economics.
Yeah.
And simple as that. And there are issues in Latin America that I don't want to get into, but where institutions like the Catholic Church have enabled the overpopulation out of control, right? When there's no accountability, no social responsibility, right? So all that overpopulation, all that excess, is coming here, and we are open arms because this is a country of immigrants. Yes, it is, but to some extent. Bring something to the table, and everybody's welcome. Mm-hmm. There are legal ways to get here. Mm-hmm. And all I'm proposing is, let's look at the root cause. It's economic necessity. Then let's provide a mechanism to address the economic necessity, right? Let them come in, let them go out. Pay for it. In the process, everybody makes money, right? The government can make money. Anyway.
Well, it is true that economics, in my opinion, drives social behavior. And so I'll do that again.
They sit here and they look at us recording, and then they let the door slam.
Yeah. It is, in my opinion, it is true that economics drives social behavior. And so then it does become, well, I'm only going to pay those people $1 in Mexico because I want more money as the owner of the factory, and that's my own selfish behavior. Over time, you hope that it equalizes because the masses get enough money and they revolt and those sorts of, but it all takes time, and it's never.
But maybe
economics
that's the problem.
That's what we're interested in, is a solution now today.
Yeah, is building a fence a solution, though?
Yeah. No.
I've never thought, and I want to make this point real quick and then I'll stop. I had never thought, till Fernando discussed it, that part of the issue is you can't go back.
Yes.
I had never thought about, once my green card expires, I always thought, well, just go back. And it's like, well, why would I want to go back? Because I need this money, so I'm going to stay here and hide and hope nobody catches me, and I'm going to hang out. So maybe we create kind of our own problems because we don't make a way for people to seamlessly pop back and forth within a construct of a system. And maybe that is part of the problem. I had never thought of that.
Well, and that's part of what makes this such an appealing just discussion. As soon as you make it about economics, it's no longer about the social issues, the language issues, the school issues, the integration issues. It's not about this, in 10 years, this essentially destitute population of 80 million that can't integrate socially because it's economics. And on that, we can have a much more sort of compelling process discussion.
I have a question, though, which I've never seen anything on. How do they know there's 13 million?
I've wondered.
You guys
that's
know?
it. It's alleged. Nobody knows.
In reality,
if we just kind of pulled this number to some extent?
Of course.
What's more than 2, right? Then we have a problem.
It's probably like census, statistical analysis.
Is it's more than 13, right? My hunch is it's closer to 18 million, but it's a hunch. It's hard to tell.
It's interesting. I just always, how do they know that if they're illegal and they're under the radar?
Yeah, I don't know. This is a great discussion, though. I mean, this is very cool stuff. So, Fernando, you are a wealth of knowledge.
I bamboozle you quick.
No, I got to tell you, I mean, this is good stuff.
Okay, have you been to Machu Picchu?
I was born in the city where Machu Picchu is.
Really?
I was there many times. I climbed the Huayna Picchu and stuff. Yeah.
I've always wanted to go there.
You need to do
My
that.
in-laws are just coming.
Nice.
I just got back from there. They spent
Really?
2 weeks walking.
The Inca Trail is a must to do.
Yeah.
Right? It's a 2-day hike. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's beautiful.
I've seen some Mayan ruins in Belize, by the way, which are beautiful if you ever get a chance to go there. Speaking of Latin America,
nice
Belize is a very wonderful place. The city itself, I mean, like a number of third world countries that I've been to, the major city is a lot of times very destitute, and you just get pickpocketed and all that kind of stuff. If you get out to the smaller areas, they're just beautiful, wonderful people, nice. It's very cool.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
I have never been. I've been to Tijuana, bought a bullwhip. That's the
What,
extent of
Which part of Mexico?
Like
South Mexico.
Are you 19?
I'm just trying to think what you needed the bullwhip for. I'm like,
Don Julio.
do you get some leather thing too?
It was there. There's the Indiana Jones thing. What can I say? I was striving to be
perhaps drinking.
That's where you got the tattoo on his left buttocks. same time. I'll take a bullwhip and a tattoo, please.
Tattoo, yes.
And another shot of tequila.
All right, TMI.
Yes, and thank you for sharing.
On that note.
Yes.
All right.
Well, it has been a real pleasure, Fernando. Thank you for sitting down with us.
Thanks
this
for
last
inviting
hour.
me.
Gosh.
It's been a
Nice
joy.
talking.
We hope
Great.
you come back and
Thank
sit
you.
with us again.
Appreciate it. Great.
With that, do we have anything else on our list of things to talk about?
I don't think so.
I think we're done. I think we're out of here.
Done well. This is
Yes.
great. Thank
Excellent.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks
everybody,
again,
for sitting
guys.
down.
Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Keep it
Fernando.
Thank
And
you.
we will we'll see you next week until Tuesday noon.
We're out.
This has been Tuesday Noon for September 26, 2006, a service of University of Phoenix. For more information on the show, catch up with us on the website at www.tuesday12.com and write us at the show at tuesday12.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back next week on Tuesday Noon.